Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's shiur should be le'ilu nishmas our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka bas Gavril Tzvi, and for Zaidi, Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dov HaKohen, Schos l'refuah shalema bekarov Meshalom ben Sarachel, Miriam bas Sarah, and Yair Yeshia ben Chaya Atara. Today, we are on page 225 in the Ora Vigdor, for those who are following along, and we're coming towards the tail end of this topic. We're talking about that we have to understand that when it comes to our hishtadlus, we have to split our mindset. We have to understand that hishtadlus is a task. It's a mitzvah that Hashem commanded us to do. It says in the pasuk, it says, Sheishes yom tavad v'asisakam le'achtecha. Hashem said, go to work for 6 days. And 7 days you shall rest. But he says, go to work. That's the mitzvah, the commandment that Hashem gave us, is to do that action. Now we have to compartmentalize our brain to understand that our actions have nothing to do with the outcome or with the result that we're looking for. And therefore, the results that we're looking for or we want, we have to have trust. That's where the Bitachon comes in. And the trust in Hashem, that Hashem will give us what we feel we need will be great. There'll be a huge bracha. But we have to trust that Hashem gives us really what we need. Not what we think we need, but because what we say, when we say we need it, we say we want it. Right? Even though when things might look like you really need it, it's still what you want. And Hashem gives you what you need at the end of the day. And so we have to compartmentalize that. And yesterday we talked about that even sometimes Hashem might send you a bracha through something that might be counterproductive. So we brought yesterday the story about Elisha and the city, that the water was foul and it was harmful, and Hashem commanded them to put salt into the water, which salt water we know does not do any good for the human body in large consumptions, especially if you need water to survive. But you see from that, he put the salt in the water, and what happened was the water became clean. And everyone in the city was now able to drink clean water, and they weren't getting sick, and they weren't dying from it, which they were doing until then. And the Shaar HaBitachon, over here, brings a few other cases. It says over here as well, V'chein, it says in Shemais, V'yireu Hashem eitz v'yishalech el hamayim. Hashem showed him a tree and threw it into the water. Hashem showed Moshe Rabbeinu a certain tree from which he took a branch to throw into the bitter waters. In the Midbar, there was they had water over it that was given to them, and it was very, very bitter. Hashem told him to take a certain branch from a tree, and over there we understand that branch, the Chacham say that was called Hordufni, but it was a very bitter tree. So if you would bite into it, the sap, the tree itself, it's a very bitter taste to it. And you see, again, something that's counterproductive. Hashem is asking you to put a bitter branch into a water that's also doesn't taste good, and no one could drink it, and the water became clean and refreshing, and everybody wanted that. And similarly it says, Yisiu develas te'enim v'yimechru ala shchin v'yechi. Let them take a cake of pressed figs. You take these pressed figs, they make a cake out of it. They still make them today, I've seen it. And smear it all over these boils or these rashes that somebody had. Medically, smearing jam or these figs, this fig cake over that burn, these boils, this ailment, doesn't do any good. But you see that Hashem just said, you do a task. That's the point that we're trying to make over here. Hashem asks you to do something. You do a hishtadlus. You need to do an action. If you do an action, I'll take care of the outcome. And the point he's making is that your actions have zero to do with the outcome. As much as you want to think and believe that your actions are actually creating the outcome, it's complete rubbish. When you have a successful company and the bigger you get, the harder it is to actually really conceptualize that, because you kind of have this personal thing. Look what I built. Look what I was good at. Look what I did. I'm smart. I came up with all these ideas. And that's what he's trying to explain. He's trying to explain to you that your actions have zero to do with your outcome. Yes, Hashem runs the world in cause and effect system. But how many times do we see people do similar actions and they have variable results? They don't have the same. If they all have the same exact, everyone follow the same exact plan, everybody should have the same exact results. But that's not true. Everyone is different. And then you have the final story that he brings over here about King Asa. The story about King Asa. King Asa was a very big tzaddik, actually. What happened with King Asa, he got sick, and he went to the doctors for treatment. And then Hashem punished him, and he punished him that he never got well again. I think it was his leg that he had a sore, and I think he lost his leg. What happened was over there, why did he get punished? He's such a big tzaddik. The reason he got punished is because first he went to the doctor to seek treatment. He didn't go to Hashem to ask first, what did I do wrong in order to deserve this ailment? He went to the doctors for treatment. And so you see over there that Hashem, it's not that Hashem doesn't want you to go to the doctor, it's just that Hashem wants you to understand that the outcome is only up to him. King Asa was at a very, very high level. He was a huge tzaddik, and being punished for something like that, I don't think would happen to a regular person. But he was held to a different standard. We know that. We know that tzaddikim are held to a very, very different standard. And finally, Rabbi Victor Miller says over here, he says that one of the hardest things you have to understand is the person with Bitachon and the person without Bitachon, on the outside, the actions are exactly the same. We all go to work, we all try hard, we all do things. The difference between a Baal Bitachon and a person who doesn't have Bitachon today is the mindset. Where is your mindset when you go to work, when you push a sale, when you're trying to get a deal done, when you're hiring employees, when you're working for an employer, when you're trying to find a shidduch, when you're looking for a doctor, a lawyer, for anything? Where's your head at? Is your head at that this is the person that's going to help me? Or is your head at that Hashem is going to help me? I'm just doing my part. And that's the difference. The actions are exactly the same. And we might, both the Baal Bitachon and the person who lacks Bitachon today, they're both looking for the best doctors, the best lawyers, the best companies to work for. Everybody's after the same thing, but the mindset is very, very, very different. There's a story that I saw recently. There's a story that I saw recently in the book. It's called Living Emunah by Rabbi David Asher. He brings a story from Rabbi Ephraim Waxman. And Rabbi Ephraim Waxman says life is like a play. He says, imagine you have a play. And the two star characters is one is a wealthy individual and one is a poor individual. Now, those are the characters in the play. But the rich individual, his character is played by a person who doesn't have any money. He's a startup. He's new to the world of acting. And he gets paid a couple $1,000s to do this play. Now, the person who was hired to do to play the role of the poor individual, was an extremely accomplished actor, and he got paid millions of dollars to act in that play. Now, the audience is watching this play. It's a great play, and they're watching, and they kind of feel bad for the poor man. They're thinking in their mind that this guy doesn't really have much. And the rich guy, they think, in reality, they probably think outside of the play, outside of his acting career, is probably a very accomplished person. That's why he won that role. But you and I both know from the details of this play, hypothetically, is that it's a complete opposite. That the poor person is the one who actually is the one who is a millionaire, and the rich one in the play is actually someone who's struggling. Ephraim Waxman says, that's life. Life really is a play. And each one of us is an actor. We need to act our part. Hashem asked us to do hishtadlus. That's our act in the play. We have a script we need to follow. We have to act and do our part. And what is our part? When we are down and we are not so successful like we want to, we're struggling, whether it's financially, emotionally, physically, whatever it is. Our part, and when we're down, is accepting it with love. Being a good Eved Hashem and telling yourself and telling Hashem and thanking Him every single day for what you have, and you saying to Hashem, you know it's for the best. And you daven and you cry for something better because that's really what you want. It's not easy to be down. It's not easy not to have, to lack, right? It's not a fun place to be. So we daven for better. We want better. We want to be successful financially. We want to be physically able. We want to have nachas. We want to have all those things. So our act in our play that we're playing, in our role, I should say, is to play that part. And if you're a wealthy person, your part is to thank Hashem. To thank Hashem what you have, that He gave you the parnasa through your labor. But understanding at the same time, just like the poor person thanks Hashem and says, I know it's for the best, when you're wealthy and you're successful and you give tzedakah b'lev shalom, you know where it came from. You know that it came from Hashem and it didn't come from your handiwork, right? And you're serving Hashem with gratitude in a way where you're showing Him that I know it has nothing to do with me. I know It's nothing to do with my handiwork, and the outcome is only up to Hashem. And that's really what it is at the end of the day. And we need to understand that. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, the way I'm saying, the way you think about it, if it's good or bad, Hashem knows really what's best for you. And like we saw over here, there are going to be times where bracha comes from a bad place in your life. It comes from a negative. It comes from putting salt in the water where it should have been just the opposite. And we need to really understand that and sit that out and wait. And sometimes that's going to happen sooner rather than later. But at the end of the day, he says in this book, he says, if you do play your part well, you'll get paid. Like every good actor. Whether you're playing the poor man role or you're playing the rich man role, you will be paid handsomely if you play your role properly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all here today, and I love you all.